coming up on today's show, the Tesla Model 3 is now approved for sale in Europe. That's good news because there's plenty on the way. Porsche plans 40,000 Taycans a year, and Toyota teaming up with Panasonic on EV batteries. More on that story and plenty more to tell you about on today's EV News Daily. Well, good morning, good afternoon and good evening. In fact, wherever you're listening in the world, welcome to EV News Daily, Tuesday the 22nd of January. My name is Martyn Lee. I've been through every EV story I can find today and just picked out the best ones that I think you need to know about. Thank you as always to myev.com for helping make this show. They are the world's first marketplace, all about buying and selling EVs and of course learning about them along the way as well. Check out myev.com if you're in the US. And welcome to the party, our newest member of the gang, if you like, on Patreon, a new producer, Egil Bjarko. Fully prepared to give that another run-up tomorrow when he emails me to say, nope, got that wrong. His first name is Egil, Egil, and Bjarko. I'm so sorry. I think getting people's names right is one of the most respectful things you can do. Blame that on me having a name spelt with a Y, not an I, in Martin, so maybe it's just a thing that bothers me. But Egil Bjarko, I hope I've said your name correctly. Hey, by the way, tonight, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, the day it's published tonight, it is the What Car Awards here in the UK. What Car Awards will look at the biggest cars of the year, the 61 new models in contention, and there's a few EVs in there as well, like the Hyundai Kona EV, the Jaguar I-Pace, the Kia e-Niro, and the Nissan NV200. Plus, of course, I told you about yesterday, the fuel cell vehicle, the Hyundai Nexo. Well, I'm heading along to that tonight. First time I've been at the What Car Awards, by the way. And I'm really looking forward to taking the temperature of the room on EVs, if that makes any sense at all, and talking to those. Because the room will be full of automotive industry people, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting a sense of where EVs are on their radar in 2019, all those kind of things. The movers, the shakers will be there, I'm sure, and little old me as well. Looking forward to that, by the way. Tonight I'll give you the full rundown tomorrow and what it was like at the swanky black tie do. Yes, the suit is out of the wardrobe. Been a few months since last time I wore the black tie outfit, and let's say between the last time and this time, Christmas has happened. Haven't tried it on yet. Preparing to hold my stomach in. Right, let's get on with the news then, and members of the European Tesla faithful can rejoice. The Model 3 will soon be on its way to fulfill your entry-level-ish electric luxury sedan dreams, says Jalopnik, except we don't call them sedans, by the way, but nice effort. The car has finally cleared its last regulatory hurdle in Europe, the first batch of them on their way, says Patrick George for Jalopnik. I guess we would just say it's a saloon car rather than a sedan car here in Europe. Bloomberg and other outlets, says Patrick, report that Tesla has received the homologation green light from the Dutch vehicle authority RDW, making the cars road legal across the European Union, paving the way for them to arrive shortly. The automaker will start with the Model 3 long range and all-wheel drive as well, and deliveries expected to begin in mid-Feb. Model 3 order books opened to Europeans earlier this month, by the way. They could then configure. And boy, am I glad that I got homologation out after opening a bottle of red wine about an hour and a half ago. I've been terrified of that word ever since. Well, meanwhile, Simon Avarez at Tesarati says that deliveries for the electric sedan, we'd call it a saloon, are yet to start, but Tesla's already moving full throttle in its European push for Model 3. In a previous report, the Belgian news agency Focus-WTV noted the electric sedans, saloons, will be arriving every week at the port of Zeebrugge, located on the coast of Belgium. And if you're listening somewhere around the world and you're not familiar with your European geography, don't worry. Zeebrugge, Belgium, basically it's a good place to drop off cars. Well, I mean, the land is a good place. The water would be terrible. By the way, from where I'm recording this podcast, I'm at home this evening, by the way, in the converted garage. Trust me, there's heating and lighting and plasterboard on the walls, and it's a proper little studio that I've got here, but it's still a converted garage, by the way. If I were to go to the end of my road, I could probably see... When it comes past, I could probably see the Glovis Captain, which is the very first ship, heading. It just came through the Panama Canal about 24 hours ago, and then it's going to be heading to Belgium. And, you know, with a proper set of binoculars, I could probably see her sail past. I'm on the coast here, on the south coast of England. Well, the Model 3 is coming to Europe, and Tesla's partnering with a transportation firm, International Car Operators, ICO, and they use roll-on, roll-off ferries. In other words, drive the car on, drive the car off. They're known as RoRos, roll-on, roll-off, capable of loading and unloading cars really, really quickly. I'll put a full link to both those articles in the show notes. Moving on to Nissan and the Leaf, and sales of the award-winning all-electric Nissan Leaf are surging, says Nissan, surging throughout Europe as consumer appetite for EVs grows. Norway has emerged as the standout market for the Leaf. More than 12,000 Leafs found home in Norway last year, with the nation's strong focus on sustainability cited for its sales success. Success is mirrored locally as the Nissan Leaf continues to be the best-selling electric vehicle here in the UK. Owing to consistent high demand, the Leaf has taken the crown as the best-selling EV in Europe for 2018. 40,000 of them sold across the continent, and to ensure Leaf remains the most competitive EV on the market, says Nissan, they've got the two new versions of the Leaf coming to Europe this summer. The new Nissan Leaf E+. But it gets more complicated. It's the Nissan Leaf E+ 3.0 limited edition. Fitted with a new 60 kilowatt-hour battery, 62 kilowatt-hour battery, according to this Nissan press release. Hey, this is interesting, by the way. I know this is super nerdy and geeky, but this is the press release that I got sent from Nissan, and they say it's the new 62 kilowatt-hour battery. Didn't all the reports on when the car was unveiled at the motor show, weren't the reporters told that day it was 60 kilowatt-hours? Anyway, I need to look back through my notes. I'm just relying on my quite worrisome memory these days, which brings enhanced performance, they say, in the range up to 239 miles a charge. But this official Nissan press release today saying 62 kilowatt hours. Maybe they were talking usable or something at the car show. I'm sure it was 60 kilowatt hours. That's going to bug me now till I look back. I would press pause on this and go back, but, you know, life's too short and all that kind of stuff. Moving on to big news from Maryland, and Maryland plans to deploy a new tool in the race to get automakers to sell more EVs. In states outside of California, at least, the state is going to install 5,000 EV chargers across the tiny state, according to Green Car Reports today. Last week, the state's Public Utilities Commission approved a proposal by 4 of its largest utilities to install those 5,000 chargers in an effort to sell 300,000 EVs in the state by 2025 and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 40%. They want to get below 2006 levels by 2030. That's a lot of chargers for what is effectively the nation's 9th smallest state. Moving on to Toyota, and the Japanese giant Toyota, along with Panasonic, are going to join forces to face the growing demand for plug-in vehicles. According to Nikkei, their plan is to launch a joint venture, a JV for battery manufacturing in 2020. Both companies want to achieve battery cost reductions and increased manufacturing scale in order to compete with the Chinese competitors, says Wade Malone at InsideEVs.com. Well, Toyota is going to hold a 51% stake of the company. So Panasonic are going to be the minority partners, and Panasonic are going to move into the company. They're going to transfer all of their most of their existing prismatic cell technology. So they're going to move their prismatic, which are like the pouch cells, right? So they're going to move that into this new company with Toyota, but they're going to have a minority shareholding in it. That leaves their cylindrical cell business. Well, cylindrical cells, aka the laptop battery cells, aka 18650s or 2170s, they are what you find inside every Tesla. And so what I think this does, this new joint venture between Panasonic and Toyota, what I think this does is it takes all of Panasonic's legacy prismatic technology, which is going to be very useful in Toyota's hybrids, in Toyota's fuel cell vehicles, because of course, you know, hydrogen cars still need batteries, albeit tiny. It moves that into this company, which is separate. It's, if you like, I think it's a really clever hedge, because then what you can do is then you can focus the minds, the resources, the people, everything that is in their cylindrical cell business, the ones they make for Tesla, completely on just Tesla. So rather than having one big battery business, they're not splitting in two. They are almost dividing them up so they can give better service to each one. And actually, like I say, it's a great hedge, because who knows which one ultimately will be successful, and maybe both will. You can't argue that Tesla's Was it like something like 2 billion cells recently? You know, they hit the 2 billion milestone for that. You know, those cells are going to be in such high demand as the Model 3 ramps, as the Model Y and the Tesla semi-truck hit the market. Then Panasonic are going to be busy. Oh, hey, by the way, can you hear the rain on the roof? I mentioned that I built my little studio here in the back of the garage, the converted garage. It's got a flat roof. And when it rains as hard as this, I know that in the past people have gone, what's that noise in the background? Yeah, that's the rain hitting the roof pretty hard. All right, moving on to Porsche. And meanwhile, Fred over at Electric has reported that Porsche is planning to double its production capacity for the Taycan, its first EV, to a massive 40,000 units every single year, according to a German report. Now, Porsche was going to produce about half that, 20,000 of them a year. The program, if they do go ahead at 40,000, it's going to be larger than the Panamera, which is Porsche's flagship sedan, and likely the closest competitor to their all-new EV. At 40,000 units a year, it's going to be one of the company's biggest vehicle programs, like the Cayenne and the Macan. Porsche was, they say, really encouraged by the early reservations for the Taycan, which opened in a few markets. Norway alone, for instance, put 3,000 reservations down, which is why they've upped it to 40,000. Not a car that I will be in the market for, not this year at least, not next year at least, but you know, for those that have the money to walk into a Porsche showroom and buy a Taycan. That's great news that 40,000 of them will be made. And actually kind of amazing news as well, because the thing that we're always told, like we always say, why can't we get more Nissan Leafs? Why can't we get more Hyundai Konas? Why can't we get more Kia e-Neros? And the reason is always, battery supply constrained, battery constrained. We'd love to make more, can't get the batteries. And Porsche just seem to have doubled their production. They obviously did a pretty smart battery contract somewhere along the line. Right, 3 more stories, 3 quickies for you. UK supermarket Tesco's planning a major rollout of solar panels on the roofs of its stores. Solar Power Portal can reveal that alongside its in-house market research team, SPP identified 5 planning applications which have been submitted now to put solar panel on the roofs of these big superstores in places like Nottingham, Lewisham, Sheerness, Martlesham and Yeovil, indicating the rollout is countrywide and not consigned to any geography. And of course, supermarkets, hypermarkets, wherever you live around the world, whatever you call them, these big stores have such large roof space. They are ideal, really, because they're public-facing brands. So if you've got a big factory that you're making widgets in your factory, you've got a lot of roof space on there, but there's no kind of pressure for you to go green on your energy supply. But with these consumer-facing brands, like the big supermarkets that are doing all they can to get consumer confidence and things like that, of course it matters if they can say, we are 100% green energy, our stores are covered in solar panels, and that's great news. Well, 2 more stories, and this is a bit of a kick in the man sack for Formula E. The Red Bull Formula 1 team is not interested ever in entering ABB FIA Formula E by the look of it. We are racing purists, they told motorsport.com. Helmut Marko is the boss of the team. Sort of. Well, no, he is. When asked why it wasn't interested in entering Formula E, Helmut Marko told motorsport.com that it was because we're racing purists. The series didn't fit with its promotional efforts. And I get that. Formula E is still growing. But as more and more companies, brand sponsors look to support a green racing series, then I think this only got a bright future for Formula E. Right, finally today we'll talk about Karma and Karma Automotive, definitely a company that's had its ups and its downs over the years. And a story today about Karma, big plans for this year, announcing a partnership with Pininfarina or Pininfarina Automobili. You know, I like to Italian things up sometimes. The tie-up expands the range of collabs among the electric car world, drawing a line from Pininfarina to Rimac, Rivian to Karma, says Autoblog. The union described as bolstering each partner's commitment to a beautiful luxury automotive design. A major addition to Karma's growing list of strategic business partners. They're helping in the technology development. They've been told to expect the first fruits of the partnership in the second quarter of this year, but the press release didn't explicitly mention any particular car. that might be further down the line. I'll put a link in the show notes if you are interested. As always, thank you very much for listening to the podcast today. And please do keep your answers coming in for this week's question of the week. Every week we set you a question and you chip in with the answer. And please answer this one. What's the best way for you to get your first taste of an EV? If you are not an EV driver yet, what's the best way? Is it a test drive? Is it an experience centre? Is it to take one for a long weekend hire, like I did with the Model S recently? And if you're already an EV driver, thinking back, how would you like to have gotten your first experience of an EV? If you could wave that magic wand and do it all over again, what's the ideal way to get people into EVs? Tell me on email. My address is hello@evnewsdaily.com. You can leave a comment in the YouTube or Facebook show notes. I'll tell you why we've gone with that question this week, because I am convinced the minute you get someone to test an EV, they flick a switch and they go, I must have this. I've got to have one. This is amazing. But you've got to get somebody in one. Everything after that gets worked out. Charging, range, affordability, everything. Even, for me, by the way, even the green issue, that came, I was going to say second, maybe even third down the list. First in the list of why you have to own an EV. They're such damn fun to drive. And then they save you money. And of course you're doing a good thing for the planet and down the list. And so for someone that says, well, I'd like one of these green cars, but you know, get them in one and then they'll be convinced. But what's the best way to do that to someone that's never experienced one? Well, you can let me know. Thank you as always to our Patreon partners. I mentioned earlier today about Patreon. It's how we fund this programme. Patreon.com, patreon.com/EV News Daily. If you'd like to add your name to the list, I'd love to be reading out your name to the thousands of people that listen to this podcast every single day, if you want to have a look at what that's all about. But no pressure at all, because I'll make this show whatever. There are now 365 shows. This is number 365. We are exactly a year's worth of shows in. Now, the actual anniversary was last week, because I did have a week off last year. However, today is show 365. That's cool, right? I think that's cool. 365. That's not bad. And pretty much every single day, 7 days a week, I've either been at work or out here at the bottom of the garden, writing this, researching this, and making this every single day. Look, it's fun for me. So I hope you enjoy listening, and thank you very much for spending. If you have been with me for a super long time, the last year, it's been fun. And here's to the next year. If today's the first podcast you're listening to, I promise they're usually better. You can subscribe to the podcasts from wherever you get podcasts from. Just hit subscribe, and then you haven't got to think about downloading it every day. You get it first and free and automatically. And if you want to hang out on the socials, search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.